I woke up feeling crappy. My body felt old. I felt like I never have enough energy to do everything I want to do, and that bums me out. I have a mountain of things to do, and a lot of them include stuff like bill payment, just no fun. But then the paint is flaking off the walls of my new house because the people who sold it to me did some kind of quick fix thing, and with the paint, and it's all falling off. I have to call to go to an audiologist to make sure that I'm really deaf. It hasn't changed in a year so that I can qualify for the deaf tax credit. I have to call to take Mac to an audiologist because his teacher has concerns about his hearing. Blah. So, all this stuff is my pile of life. And for sure, the longer I look at it, the bigger it all gets and the more tired I feel. But I'm not unique or alone in having a pile of life. We all have it. It may or may not include disability. I can't choose the elements of my pile of life very easily, but I can choose what I want to do with them. Like, I can choose how I feel about them. I choose what my focus will be. When I feel really crappy and overwhelmed with my pile, I close my eyes and I think of my perfect world. I think of my world at its best, what I dream of. I write out a story, usually in a notebook like this, of my perfect world, of my world at its best, what I dream of. I write out a story, my magical, fanciful story of the wonder of my life, of all the beauty that it has and holds and expounds. And I write out this story of my world as my spirit sees it, not as the pile sees it. And simply the act of doing this is transformative. It's empowering, it's a pivot, it's a game changer. And us parents of kids with disabilities have a lot on our plates, and there are no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I spent 2 solid weeks crying over my daughter's IEP. I spent another 2 solid weeks trying to figure out my son's 504 and if he was going to get one or what. I spent a few days even grieving about my third kid potentially having one of the same disabilities as me. And I know I'm not supposed to grieve. It's supposed to be totally kosher and cool because I'm a strong proponent of disability culture. But I do grieve. And I grieve because disability is a natural and normal part of the human experience. And yet, it's such a big fucking deal with people who don't understand it. I grieve because I don't want my kids to go through what I have. I grieve because while the personal experience of disability can be powerful and wonderful, public access and inclusion are royal pains in the ass. Us people with disabilities have a lot on our plates, and there are no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I have to fight for every single scrap of access that is thrown my way. I need to figure out how to stay strong and true to my spirit while wading through mires of CPTSD and neurodivergence. I need to figure out how to remember anything when my brain wants to let loose. I need to figure out what is being said around me because it's all a hushed mumble. I have a constant daily stress from the news and the threats of X, Y, and Z being cut, and I don't know what I'm going to do about any of it. I'm exhausted from trying to explain how I don't look disabled, but I sure as hell am, and that being disabled is not a bad thing. These plates of mine are full. The plates, pile of life, all that stuff is real and it's there. And like I said, the focus and the feelings are my choices. So I sit down and write the new stories. And I write stories of a world that we create that celebrates every person, all people, that realizes and recognizes that we are all beloved. I write stories that include my beautiful home, my gardens that feed and sustain both body and spirit, that heal and nurture. I write stories that include my three lovely children, each so perfect in their existence. I write of them happy, flourishing, thriving, learning, growing, being and becoming who they truly are. I write stories of a life in which communication will be easy for me. I write stories that bring me joy as I write them. Then with the joy that they bring, I feel a renewed sense of energy, enthusiasm, and power, and I'm able to see the pile differently. The stories give me strength. The stories feed my soul. In the stories, we create what we say about ourselves, the words we choose, the narratives we tell are so powerful. I create a story of my life in which I'm a certain type of person, engaging in the world in a certain way. I could weave my story one particular way with a heavy focus on the lack, on the negative, on the challenges. Or I can tell my story in a way that makes me feel more powerful. So, for example, on disability, I'm going to tell my story about disability in that disability is not a challenge to be overcome, but rather it's a platform upon which I live my life. Because that feels better to me to say that it's a platform rather than it's this challenge I have to overcome. That I say that disability is a natural and normal part of the human experience because that feels good to me to say that. I say that disability is value added, that we learn, grow, and thrive to an utmost extent when we lean in and figure out the disability component. And that feels good to me too. On being a single mom, I'll tell the stories and I'll tell that particular focus that being a single mom means that my kids thoroughly learn self-sufficiency, responsibility, and independence. And they do. And my kids learn the value of one active, engaged grandparent. My kids learn, and I also learn, the timing and organization, resourcefulness, and financial management. And we develop stellar natural skill sets in those. On the grief and loss story and narrative and experiencing the grief and the loss that I have, I'm going to tell that story that I had the experience of knowing what a truly great brother is. I have an angel that I can call by name, and my grandparents gave me wonderful, funny memories that I'm grateful for, and a rich love for movies and learning. I could go on, but you understand where I'm going with this. It's all about focusing on the things that I want to focus on. It's about focus and weaving and creating a narrative that shifts my feelings and enhances joy and ultimately, literally becomes my reality. Because we create our lives and our stories. We spin our tales as we will, and we shift and shape our narratives. And we choose the angle, the plot twist, the trajectory. So, how do we want to tell it?